Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to clear the clutter from your reading list, cut through all that noise, and really give you the actionable insight you need right now.
And today's deep dive, it's a big one.
It is. We're talking about achieving genuine mental freedom. We're going after that relentless internal chatter and trying to master the really tricky art of letting go.
It's something everyone struggles with.
Absolutely. And as we went through all the source material, there was this one quote that it summed up the entire problem perfectly. It's from Mark Twain.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
He said, "I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened."
And that's it right there.
That's the trap. That is the overthinking trap we're breaking down today. And the sources all agree this is so much more than just a little bit of stress. It's a chaotic mental state.
It is. It's fueled by old, unresolved stuff. And maybe most importantly, this debilitating fear of an unknown future.
A future that, like Twain said, probably won't even happen that way.
Exactly. And that's why our mission here is to distill all this research into some really accessible strategies. We want to show you how to stop suffering through these imagined futures.
We're talking simple, usable techniques.
Super simple. Things like just committing to 5 minutes of mindful breathing in the morning. The goal is to show you how to turn that internal struggle into real, genuine strength.
To make this concrete, let's talk about Sarah. She's a school teacher, and her story really anchors a lot of this material.
Her story is so relatable.
It is. Before she started using these tools, her mornings were just chaos. And not because of, packing lunches or traffic.
No, it's all internal.
All internal. It was self-doubt. She'd be replaying every tough conversation from yesterday, worrying about deadlines for the day ahead, and she'd walk into her classroom just filled with this sense of dread.
That internal chaos was coloring her entire world. But by putting some of these simple strategies into practice, her whole experience transformed.
Right. She went from dread to, what was it?
To anticipation and calm. Her story is this amazing promise that, deep lasting change is actually possible, even when the problem feels as natural as breathing.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's figure out how we start that transformation for ourselves.
Let's do it.
So we have to start with understanding the problem itself, this overthinking trap. And crucially, we have to separate it from actual useful deep thinking.
That's the most important distinction.
Right, because overthinking, as the sources define it, is a habit. It's repetitive, it's excessive, and it's not constructive.
It's a broken record playing the same depressing song.
Exactly. It's counterproductive. Deep thinking actually leads to solutions. Overthinking just leads to more overthinking.
It's an unproductive loop. The analogy they use is an overactive mind being like a cluttered desk. You can't get anything done, and it just breeds more stress.
And the sources break this down into 3 specific patterns that pretty much snare everyone at some point.
Right. The first one is called future tripping.
Which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like.
It is. It's excessive worry about what might happen, and you're almost always projecting a pessimistic or even catastrophic outcome.
So like Sarah, our teacher.
Exactly like Sarah. She wasn't just planning her day. She was picturing the absolute worst-case scenario for that parent meeting, convincing herself the principal would hate her lesson plan.
She's forecasting total failure before the day has even started.
It paralyzes her before the first bell even rings.
So that's the future. The second type is the opposite, right? It's looking backward, rumination.
Right. Rumination is being locked in the past. It's endlessly revisiting mistakes, replaying that argument you had last week or that one typo on a report from 6 months ago.
And it doesn't lead to any learning.
None. It just leads to guilt and shame and regret. It keeps you completely stuck.
That sounds exhausting. But what about the third one, analysis paralysis? I mean, where's the line between that and just being thorough, doing your due diligence?
That's a fantastic question, because the line is all about productivity. Analysis paralysis is when you're searching for the perfect option, and that search just eats up all your time and energy.
And you end up totally frustrated and can't make a decision.
You make no decision at all. Good due diligence leads to a choice, even if it's a tough one. Paralysis means nothing happens.
Like spending hours comparing 20 health insurance plans.
And then just throwing your hands up and sticking with the bad one you already have because you just can't handle the uncertainty of making a choice.
Wow. Okay, that hits close to home.
For a lot of us.
So here's where it gets really interesting. How this mental clutter actually triggers the anxiety cycle in a very real physical way.
Right. So when these worries pop up, doesn't matter if they're about the past or the future, they trigger our ancient stress response.
The fight or flight system.
Exactly. Your brain sees a threat, whether it's a tiger or a deadline, and your system gets flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. And that's a problem for clear thinking.
Because that cortisol actually inhibits the logical part of your brain.
It does. It shuts it down temporarily. That's why when you're catastrophizing, you literally cannot think straight. Your brain is only focused on the threat, not on finding a solution.
And that kicks off the vicious feedback loop.
hmm The anxiety, which is that physical feeling of being on high alert, just causes more frantic overthinking.
Which then reinforces the physical symptoms, the tight shoulders, the headaches, the fast heartbeat.
It's a completely self-perpetuating system, a closed loop.
So how do you break it?
Well, the sources suggest that trying to analyze your way out of the problem is just more overthinking.
Right. That's just feeding the beast.
Exactly. So instead, you focus on action. The mantra here is, an ounce of action is worth a pound of analysis.
So you take that huge, scary project
Yeah.
and you break it down.
You break it down into tiny, manageable tasks. It lowers the pressure, and it cuts through the analysis paralysis because the choice becomes simple. All you have to do is complete this one tiny thing.
And that idea of simplifying leads us perfectly into the next section, which is about the foundational tools for making this shift, starting with the big antidote, mindfulness.
If overthinking is the problem, mindfulness is the solution.
Because it roots you firmly in the present moment. It pulls your attention away from all that mental looping. And the research points to four core principles here.
The first one is just being present,
Mm.
anchoring yourself in what's happening right now. The studies on this are so clear, presence-focused exercises drastically cut stress.
Because your mind literally can't worry about the future if it's completely focused on right now.
You can't be in two places at once. The second principle is non-judgment.
This is the one John Kabat-Zinn describes as paying attention on purpose in the now moment and non-judgmentally.
That's it. You just observe the thought, oh, there's that worry about my boss again. But you don't engage. You don't label it good or bad. You just let it pass by.
Like a cloud in the sky.
Exactly. And third is curiosity. You start to approach your own thoughts like a detective. A worry pops up and you ask, what evidence do I actually have for this thought?
You become a skeptical investigator of your own mind. I like that.
And the final one, which might be the most important, is self-compassion.
This is just treating yourself with the same kindness you'd give to a friend.
Without a second thought. When Sarah, our teacher, had a bad day, her inner critic would just scream at her. Self-compassion is learning to replace that voice with, you know what, that was tough, I did my best, and I'll try again tomorrow.
It's a direct counter to all that harsh self-criticism.
And it's probably a good moment to quickly clarify the difference between mindfulness and meditation. They're related, but they're not the same thing.
Right. Mindfulness is something you can integrate into your whole day. It's ongoing awareness. Like mindful eating, where you actually focus on the taste of your food.
Or active listening, where you're truly hearing what someone's saying instead of just planning your reply.
Whereas meditation is the more formal, structured practice, setting aside 10 minutes in the morning for quiet reflection.
Right, and when you combine both, you get this really robust framework for emotional stability. That's why simple things like a mindful walk, just feeling your feet on the ground, can be so powerful.
Okay, so that's observing our thoughts. But how do we actively reshape them? This gets into tackling what the experts call cognitive distortions.
These are the irrational patterns, the little tricks our mind plays on us that make it really hard to see things clearly.
And Sarah's experience is a perfect example of one of the big ones, catastrophizing.
It is. For Sarah, if a single student struggled with a lesson, her mind didn't think, okay, I need to try a new approach.
No, it jumped immediately to the worst possible conclusion.
Right. It was, this means I'm a terrible teacher, I'm going to get fired, my career is over. It's taking one small issue and blowing it up into an apocalypse.
It's mistaking possibility for probability. Just because something could happen doesn't mean it's likely.
That's the core insight. Other common ones are all or nothing thinking, seeing one mistake as total failure, or filtering, where you only focus on the negative and ignore all the praise.
And personalization, right. Blaming yourself for things that are totally outside your control.
Yes, like if a friend cancels plans because they're busy and you immediately think it's your fault, these thoughts feel incredibly real, but they're just distortions.
The good news is there are techniques to fix this, like the 3 C's technique.
A great, simple tool.
First, you catch it. You recognize the thought as it happens. I'm thinking I'm going to get fired.
The second, you check it. You challenge it. You ask, what evidence do I actually have for this? And the answer is usually none.
And third, you change it. You actively replace that distorted thought with a realistic one. Like, Okay, that lesson was a challenge. I'll get some feedback and adjust it for tomorrow.
And this is where visualization comes in too. It's a huge part of cognitive reframing. Instead of mentally rehearsing failure,
Picturing yourself fumbling the presentation.
you intentionally paint a new picture. You see yourself calm, clear, and confident. That mental rehearsal makes it so much easier to challenge the negative patterns when they pop up for real.
This all leads us into a more holistic view, starting with emotional intelligence, or EI. The sources frame this as the key skill for navigating those emotional waves without, getting swamped by them.
And the foundation of EI is self-awareness, recognizing your emotions and your triggers before they completely take over.
So for Sarah, this meant noticing that tightness in her chest a half hour before a difficult parent meeting.
Yes. And once you notice it, you can make a plan. You can do something about it before you're in the thick of it, not during.
Then comes self-regulation, which isn't about suppressing emotion.
Not at all. It's about managing your reactions. It's that crucial pause in a heated conversation that lets you reflect instead of just reacting impulsively.
The other components are motivation focusing on your own personal growth, instead of just looking for outside approval and social skills.
Which is really about building that strong support system. Good communication, empathy, that's your emotional buffer.
And you can actually train that foundational self-awareness with physical practices. Things like yoga or Tai Chi really force you to tune into your body.
You start to notice the tight shoulders or the shallow breathing, and you realize, oh, that's my physical warning sign. It tells you it's time to check in with your mental state.
Which takes us right to stress management. Because when we face these modern threats, a deadline, a conflict, our old primitive fight-or-flight response kicks in.
And your system is flooded with cortisol.
And as we said, that cortisol literally makes it harder to think straight. It shuts down the rational part of your brain.
So you need immediate physical tools to turn that response off.
Mm.
But before we get to the tools, it's worth mentioning the idea of eustress.
This is the idea of reframing stress, right?
Exactly. Seeing stress as a challenge rather than a threat, it can actually be motivating. It's like lifting weights. It builds muscle without causing injury. It's seeing a challenge as a chance to grow.
But in the moment, when you feel that panic rising, you need something now. And that's where the breathing techniques are a game changer.
They're so simple and so powerful. There's diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing, which directly activates your body's relaxation response.
And box breathing, which is that structured 4-count rhythm. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4.
That's a favorite of the military for a reason.
I mean, the fact that this is taught to SEAL teams tells you everything. If a simple breathing pattern can help you regain control under fire, it's definitely going to work before your big presentation.
And then there's the 4-7-8 technique, which is amazing for inducing calm. You inhale for 4, hold that breath for 7, and then exhale slowly for 8 counts.
Just a few rounds of any of these can interrupt that physical feedback loop of anxiety.
And we can't talk about holistic tools without talking about sleep. It's the ultimate foundation.
Non-negotiable. We know that getting 7 to 9 hours is essential for emotional regulation. Poor sleep makes every single worry feel 10 times worse.
That consistent, cool, dark, quiet routine has to be a priority.
Okay, so moving into our final section, let's look at long-term change. This starts with the really challenging act of truly letting go of the past.
It's like shedding old skin. And it starts by identifying those unresolved issues that keep showing up as the same emotional patterns over and over again.
Like if Sarah is constantly feeling guilty about a mistake from last year, that guilt is the fuel for her current rumination.
And this is where the power of forgiveness comes in. The sources are clear. This is a conscious choice to release anger and guilt. It's about freeing yourself.
It's not about condoning what happened.
Not at all. It's about releasing the burden. And the most critical piece of this is self-forgiveness. You have to turn that compassion inward.
And for those really sticky things, the sources suggest trying forgiveness rituals.
Right, symbolic acts, like writing down all your regrets or grievances on a piece of paper and then ceremonially destroying it.
Or
Burn it, tear it up. It gives you a sense of cathartic, physical release.
And to make sure you're really moving forward, you can use what they call temporal shift techniques.
This is about mentally shifting from past regrets to future goals. For Sarah, instead of letting a past mistake define her, she could create a timeline where that mistake is marked as a lesson learned.
Not a permanent failure.
Exactly. And finally, all of this builds resilience, which isn't some trait you're born with. It's a set of skills you can cultivate.
Skills like adaptability, persistence, optimism.
And we saw this connected back to the SMART goal framework. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
That Microsoft example was perfect. Their huge vision was a computer on every desk.
That's overwhelming.
Total analysis paralysis.
But they broke it down into thousands of smaller, actionable, smart goals. That's how you build resilience. You learn from the small failures and just keep moving.
And that kind of growth requires you to be proactive. It means always adding new tools to your toolkit journaling, the breathing techniques, stress management, and constantly learning from change, reflecting on how you handled past transitions so you're better prepared for the next one.
So after all that, what's the takeaway for you?
Well, we've gone from understanding the paralyzing weight of overthinking and anxiety through these amazing foundational tools like mindfulness and cognitive reframing.
And landed on building long-term emotional resilience.
And I think the real value is in celebrating the small wins. Every single mindful breath you take, every single time you catch and reframe a negative thought, that's tangible proof that you're making progress.
And if you just take one thing away from our deep dive today, maybe let it be this final thought. Fear and anxiety are a consequence of your imagination running wild. You are suffering a situation that may never happen.
That's powerful.
You have this incredibly powerful imagination, but when it runs wild, it builds a cage around you. And the key to unlocking that cage isn't trying to fix some imaginary future. It's your ability to choose one single mindful action right now. Just
Yeah.
focus on the present you know you have, for sure.